Tibet, located in the heart of the Himalayas, is the highest region of the planet, and also one of the most mysterious and spiritual places in the world. Surrounded by Everest and the most imposing mountains, Tibet stands as a huge window from which to contemplate the most sublime landscape on Earth. This is the birthplace of one of the most influential spiritual figures in history, the Dalai Lama, whose path to enlightenment was perhaps influenced by the majesty of these landscapes. The Tibetans, with their unique culture rooted in the ancient Buddhist tradition, have forged an identity that has stood the test of time and external influences. The Tibetan ethnicity, with its deep connection to the mountain and its ancestors, has given rise to a community that has been able to adapt and survive in the most extreme conditions. Tibet combines, like no other place, the serenity and magic of the heights with the vibrant traditions and culture of its ancient cities and temples. From the ancient practice of reincarnation of the Dalai Lamas, where a child is recognized as the incarnation of divinity from a very early age, to the Tibetan fraternal marriage, also known as sibling marriage, which you will soon learn about and will surely surprise you. Tibet is a land full of peculiarities that distinguish it from any other place. But in addition to these curiosities and its traditions, Tibet is also one of the most sacred and mysterious places on the planet, a region nestled high in the Himalayas that hides mysteries such as the monster of Lake Namtso, a monster similar to that of Loch Ness, the Yetis, or the lost kingdoms of Shambhala and Agartha. Don't miss any of this new video of Uncensored World, because we assure you that everything in it will surprise you. Located on the Tibetan Plateau, often referred to as the roof of the world, Tibet is a vast and mountainous territory that shares borders with China, Nepal, India, and Bhutan. In the description and at the end of the video, we will leave videos about these other countries so that you can also learn about these fascinating cultures. What we know as one of the most mystical and spiritual lands on the planet emerged in the 7th century, but the current borders date back to the 18th century. Originally, Tibet was composed of a large western and central area called Utsang, what is now present-day Tibet, located on the Tibetan Plateau northwest of the Himalayas, along with other more decentralized eastern areas called Kham and Amdo, now incorporated into the Chinese provinces of Sichuan and Qinghai. Without going into the conflict between Tibet and China, which is complex and would be enough for another video in itself, China currently governs this large western and central area, considered as the Tibet Autonomous Region. Its Tibetan name is Bod, which originally meant the central region around Lhasa, but the Western word Tibet dates back to the 18th century, and linguists agree that it comes from the Semitic language, where literally the derivation of Tibet means the heights. Another version is what it means in Mandarin, known as Xizang. Its translation would be Western Reserve. The name Tibet is derived from the term Bod in the Tibetan language, which originally meant the central region around Lhasa, its capital. But according to linguists, the word comes from a Semitic language in which the derivation of Tibet would mean the heights. And no wonder, since apart from being located in the highest mountain range in the world, it also contains the highest capital in the world, a city called Lhasa, which is the traditional capital of Tibet and of the current autonomous region. Located at an altitude of 3,650 meters, Lhasa is the highest capital city in the world and the second highest city in all of Asia. This city, whose name means place of the gods, is the epicenter of Tibetan Buddhism and is home to some of the world's most revered religious monuments, including the imposing Potala Palace, the former residence of the Dalai Lamas, and Norbolinka, the summer palace of the Dalai Lamas. These sites are recognized as World Heritage Sites by UNESCO, along with many other temples and monasteries found in the city. With a population of about 250,000, divided into 7 counties, Lhasa is the most populous place in Tibet, contributing significantly to the vibrant cultural and social life of the region. As for the total population of Tibet, it is estimated at approximately 3 million inhabitants, which underlines the importance of Lhasa as an urban and cultural center in this vast plateau. One of the most remarkable linguistic wonders of Tibet is its language, Tibetan, which has a unique peculiarity. It is a tonal language, i.e., the same word can change its meaning drastically depending on how it is intoned or pronounced. Imagine the richness of expression this implies. The same sequence of sounds can take on multiple meanings and emotional nuances, depending on the context and vocal inflection. This distinctive aspect of Tibetan reflects the depth and complexity of this culture, where words not only communicate information, but also convey subtle nuances of feelings, values, and deep-rooted traditions. Many of these traditions have to do with their predominant religion, Tibetan Buddhism. This unique form of Buddhism, which originated in the Indian subcontinent and was brought to Tibet in the 7th century, has evolved to incorporate local beliefs and practices, becoming an integral part of Tibetan identity. Ancient monasteries, colorful prayer flags, and vibrant religious festivals paint a portrait of the deep spiritual roots of this region. At the heart of this spirituality is Shangri-La, a concept that embraces the idea that every human being possesses an inner divine spark. This concept manifests itself in the search for enlightenment and connection with the divine through meditative practices and sacred rituals. One of the main wonders of Tibet are the Tibetan temples, nestled on the mountain tops and scattered throughout the valleys. These places are spaces of deep contemplation and devotion, sanctuaries that offer devotees a refuge for reflection and spiritual connection, surrounded by the natural majesty of snow-capped peaks and vast mountainous landscapes. The Dalai Lama is the spiritual and political leader of Tibet, a figure revered throughout the world for his wisdom and compassion. Dalai comes from a Mongolian word meaning ocean, and Lama is a Tibetan term meaning reincarnated master. That is why the Dalai Lama is the high priest, the person who is the spiritual leader and head of state of Tibet. The pillars of Tibetan Buddhism say that the Dalai Lamas are incarnations of the Avalokiteshvara, the patron bodhisattva of Tibet, one of the most important gods of Tibetan Buddhism, known for his infinite compassion towards human beings, and that when they die, they are reincarnated again in a maximum of 49 days, in a baby that is also sacred. Today, the Dalai Lama is Tenzin Gyatso, winner of the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989, and the protagonist of many films and documentaries such as the famous 7 Years in Tibet. One of the most ancestral and surprising traditions of Tibet has to do with the Dalai Lama's succession. Tibetans believe strongly in reincarnation, and do so in such a way that it is believed that the soul of the deceased Dalai Lama is reborn in a baby, who must be identified and taken through a process of spiritual education and training. This process involves the meticulous search for the child, which often includes signs and predictions that guide the searchers to their location around the world. Once found, the boy is educated in Buddhist teachings and becomes the spiritual leader of his village, in a practice that is passed down from generation to generation and is known as the reincarnation of the Dalai Lamas. These sacred traditions, rooted in Tibet's deep spirituality and cultural heritage, continue to inspire millions of people around the world, offering a link to the divine and a guide to a life of wisdom and inner peace. In the vast and mysterious landscape of Tibet, where Tibetan temples rise majestically on mountaintops and ancient monasteries resound with sacred chants, are vestiges of even more ancient legends, the lost kingdoms of Shambhala and Agartha. Shambhala, a legendary kingdom described in Tibetan and Buddhist traditions, is considered by many to be a mythical land of wisdom and spirituality. It is said to be hidden somewhere in the Himalayas, beyond the snow-capped mountains and deep valleys, protected by invisible barriers and inhabited by enlightened beings. Spiritual seekers yearn to find this utopian realm, where peace and harmony are believed to reign eternally. Agartha, another legend that intertwines with Tibetan mythology, is a subway kingdom said to exist at the heart of the earth. Agartha is believed to be connected through networks of subway tunnels and hidden caves, and is home to an advanced civilization of enlightened and wise beings. Accounts from explorers and mystics suggest that Agartha is a haven of ancient knowledge and advanced technology, a place where the secrets of the universe are jealously guarded by its inhabitants. With the beauty of the landscape and the Tibetan buildings as a backdrop, Tibet is presented as a place where everything seems possible, where the boundaries between the real and the imaginary are blurred, and legends come to life in the mist of the mountains. Whether exploring ancient temples in search of spiritual enlightenment or contemplating the hidden secrets of lost kingdoms, Tibet remains a destination that inspires awe, wonder, and amazement in all who venture into these sacred lands. But apart from amazement, there are many reasons that make this region one of the most important in the world. One of the main reasons is its strategic role in the geopolitics of Asia, as it shares borders with India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Myanmar, making it a vital link between the country and the South and Central Asia. Apart from its location, Tibet is also known as the Water Tower of Asia, because together with the Chinese province of Qinghai, this region is a huge water reservoir with glaciers that feed the largest rivers in Asia. Given its unparalleled geography and nature, Tibet is also home to important mineral deposits, such as iron, lead, zinc, cadmium, and copper, being the location of the largest mine in China. In addition, it has significant oil and gas reserves. These natural resources are part of the reasons that have triggered territorial conflicts with China over the years. Apart from its infinite wonders, Tibet also contains some mysteries that make this region frightening for many. Although there is no solid or widely accepted evidence, it is believed that in Tibet, similar to the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland, there is also a beast known as the Loch Namtso Monster. Over the centuries, the serene waters of this lake, located in Tibet, have witnessed tales and legends about this monster. Among all the stories passed down from generation to generation, one in particular has captured the imagination of the locals: the legend of the Namtso Lake Monster. According to local elders, many decades ago, a lone fisherman was sailing in his small boat on the calm waters of the lake at dusk. As he cast his net in search of fish, he suddenly felt a mysterious force pulling the boat into the depths. Wide-eyed, he watched as a gigantic creature slowly emerged from the water, with glistening scales and eyes that glowed in the twilight gloom. The fisherman could barely articulate an exclamation of surprise before the creature returned to the depths of the lake, leaving only ripples on the surface. Fortunately, the Tibetan fisherman rowed with all his strength back to shore, where he recounted his encounter to the incredulous villagers and made this legend famous. Since then, there have been many people who have claimed to have sighted this monster. Although similar to the Loch Ness Monster, there is no proof of its existence. Some believe this monster is an ancestral guardian of the deep, while others maintain that it is a manifestation of the water spirits that inhabit the lake. But if there really is a legend and a monster hidden in the Tibetan heights, it could probably be the Yeti or the abominable snowman. Since Tibet, along with Nepal, is recognized as one of the places with the most reported sightings of this creature. Locals have passed down accounts of Yeti encounters for generations, describing a large, hairy creature that inhabits the inhospitable mountains. Although the Yeti's existence has not been confirmed by science, many Tibetans continue to believe in its presence in these remote regions. Even some Tibetan communities consider the Yeti as a mystical and powerful figure, intertwining it with the essence of nature and the spirits of the mountains. In Tibet, one can find temples and sacred places where the Yeti is venerated through representations and figures of this enigmatic creature. Devotees make offerings and perform ceremonies in his honor, seeking protection and blessings while traveling through the imposing heights of the Himalayas. Whether or not the abominable snowman exists, Tibet is such an incredible and unique place in the world that it is the only region on Earth where one of the most extraordinary and ancient traditions on the planet, known as the Tibetan brotherly marriage or brotherly marriage, is still maintained. It is true that this type of marriage sounds terrible, but the reality is not as absurd as it may seem just by listening to it. Tibetan brotherly and sisterly marriage is a unique cultural practice where family ties are intertwined in a cross-marriage between siblings from different families. In this type of union, a brother and sister from one family marry another brother and sister from another family. For example, two brothers from one family may join in marriage with two sisters from another family, thus creating a marriage connection between siblings from different family lineages. Tibetan fraternal marriage strengthened family and community ties by uniting two families through sibling marriage, fostering collaboration and mutual support. This practice also allowed for the preservation of family property and inheritance, while balancing the genders and ages of the spouses to ensure equal marriage opportunities. In addition to its cultural and spiritual significance, fraternal marriage was a way to honor ancestral traditions and promote respect for ancestors and the land, thus strengthening community and collaboration between families. Although Tibetan fraternal marriage may seem strange or unusual from a Western perspective, it is a practice deeply rooted in Tibetan culture and history. Despite the social and cultural changes that have occurred in the region over the years, many Tibetan communities continue to practice this unique form of marriage as an integral part of their identity and cultural heritage. In an increasingly globalized world, this type of marriage stands out as an example of cultural diversity and respect for ancestral traditions. It is living proof of the richness and depth of this Tibetan culture, which continues to captivate and amaze the world with its unique and fascinating customs. Before we continue, we would like to ask you, would you like to visit Tibet? What do you think of these traditions and mysteries? Which one has surprised you the most? Pause the video and leave us your comment. Doing so is the best way for you to support Uncensored World, so we can continue working to bring you the best content. We would love to read you in the comments and continue to grow together, so thank you. As you are seeing, Tibet is a world apart. This spiritual reserve of the East is an extraordinary combination of breathtaking landscapes at high altitude, being considered as the highest region of the planet with its 4,900 meters of altitude on average. A region surrounded by the highest mountains, the Himalaya mountain range, coupled with a religious world of prayer with imposing monasteries suspended on the cliffs. In addition, Tibet was also part of ancient silk trade routes from the 7th century to the 20th century. All in all, such a mysterious and magical place that everyone should visit if they have the opportunity. Returning to its most important temples and monasteries, it is important to know that the most important ones are located on what is known as the Friendship Highway, an area that links the capital of Tibet, Lhasa, with Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. The most sacred of all the temples is Jokhang, a sanctuary with a pilgrimage behind it of more than 1,300 years of history. Considering Tibet's impressive altitude, it is essential to understand and prepare for what is known as altitude sickness if you intend to visit the region. Altitude sickness arises from the body's failure to adapt to the decrease in oxygen at high altitude and can cause unpleasant symptoms if not properly addressed or if proper acclimatization is not allowed. For this reason, it is essential to follow a number of precautions when traveling to Tibet. Gradualness in travel is key to avoiding this inconvenience, as it allows the body to slowly adapt to the altitude conditions and minimizes the risk of altitude sickness negatively affecting your travel experience. The best period to explore Tibet are the months from April to October are considered optimal to appreciate the landscapes at their best. However, it is crucial to keep in mind that July and August are rainy months. When planning trekking routes, many consider May to be the best month, while others prefer September to October. It is essential to note that travel to Tibet requires obtaining an entry permit in advance, and it is important to note that the region is usually closed in March. Independent travel to Tibet is prohibited due to ongoing disputes over China's occupation of Tibet. In addition, it is necessary to obtain a Chinese visa to enter the region, which can be complicated due to specific deadlines and requirements. Considering the trip, there are several options to travel to Tibet, either by air or land. The most common way to reach Tibet is to fly into Lhasa Gongar Airport, which is the main airport in the Tibet Autonomous Region. Tibet's geographical features have posed significant challenges to the construction of a safe airport in the region. For many years, the process of establishing an airport went through numerous trials and errors, facing dangerous air routes and several fatal accidents. However, with the construction of the Lhasa Gongar Airport, the challenge of what was known as the no-fly zone was overcome, which was considered a monumental achievement. Currently, this airport is considered safe, and landing or taking off from Lhasa is no more complicated than from any other European or American airport. From cities such as Beijing, Chengdu, Shanghai, Xi'an, and other major Chinese cities, there are regular flights to Lhasa. This airport also receives limited international flights from cities such as Kathmandu in Nepal. Another option is to travel overland from other regions of China. However, be aware that some of these routes can be long and challenging due to terrain conditions and altitude. Therefore, for some years now, it has been possible to travel by high-speed train from China to Tibet, from some cities such as Chengdu, Xi'an, and Xining. The Qinghai-Tibet Railway is one of the highest railway routes in the world and offers a breathtaking scenic experience as it traverses the plateaus and mountains of Tibet. Enjoying Tibet can mean one of the most incredible and unique travel experiences on the planet due to its peculiarities. For all that from Uncensored World, we hope you liked this video and it will help you to know better this magical place. If you've made it this far, we encourage you to subscribe to Uncensored World. Every week we share new videos that invite you to discover the world and its fascinating mysteries like never before. Join our growing community and be part of this exciting adventure. Your support makes us very happy and drives us to keep growing together. And now he continues to discover the world, its magic and mysteries, with videos like the one you can see here. Click on it, you will enjoy it.